Meanwhile, in the pod cave.
And welcome back to another edition of the Podmen. I'm Brad.
I'm Brian.
I've been Ron.
And I'm Alex.
Alex, thank you for joining us tonight. We will go ahead and have to excuse you because you have a little bit of a cough. Nothing to be concerned about.
No.
Of course not. Not in this day and age. A little cough means nothing.
No,
of course not.
Fine. No quarantine for me. I'm all good. Just a little respiratory illness.
So what are we discussing today?
Wow, just jumping right to it.
What is
No subtlety.
Podman Ron has no time for your foolishness,
DMR
Brian.
has never been so on point. He's just ready
Oh,
to fucking go.
just ready to go, man.
All right, he's ready.
He's so excited.
Brian is speechless right now. He can't even. All right, well, you know what? We're going to go.
Let's cut the shit.
Cut the shit. So I guess we're cutting the news segment. Should we? I know you want to keep the in memoriam. No. What?
No.
I feel like there's one story that's good.
Okay,
One
let's
story
go to
we
the
should talk
newsroom.
about.
Let's go to the newsroom. All right. Well, hey, we got no time for this. What's the news blast here, Brian?
Yeah, just the one that I thought was interesting was Patty Jenkins her Rogue Squadron movie's been delayed indefinitely.
Oh, that's too bad. I mean, that was been going on for a while. It seemed like, right? Or
Yeah, I think
in
it got
some
announced
sort of-
right. I think it got announced at D23 last year, right before Wonder Woman 84 came out.
Yeah.
And so
Well, I think it's because the Disney execs heard that the final battle of Rogue Squadron was going to be the X-Wings versus Win. I heard that was the big culmination. This is the X-Wings versus Win was the final battle. And Disney was like,
yeah. So my thought was they finally got around to watching Wonder Woman 84. So,
Oof.
but yeah, there's this whole thing going around about and some of it's a little bit kind of like tinfoil hat stuff, but about Chapek and Feige, there's a rift, and this may kind of lead into the Internals and may have something to do with what's going on with Scarlett Johansson and all the actors, and I guess Patty Jenkins at this point, but that Chapek and the Disney execs are pushing back on this new phase of Marvel, where they're looking to push all the new characters, the more diverse characters. Here's the new Cap, here's the new Black Widow, here's here's Kamala Khan, here's all these characters that didn't really land when their comic books launched. A lot of these comic books, there's movies we're getting properties and TV shows on that comic books couldn't even make it 18 issues, but we're getting a 12 episode TV show. So there's rumors like there's that kind of conflict, and that might be why the some of those Marvel movies got pushed back that had been set to launch. Is that there was one about like Riri Williams that Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to make an appearance in the Ironheart movie, and they pushed back like, no, we're not gonna sacrifice Robert Downey Jr. to prop up Riri Williams Ironheart, whose book got canceled. Nobody cares about Ironheart. Nobody cares about Ironheart,
really
but
they don't. I mean,
Kevin Feige. So that's kind of the rumbling.
Wait, hold on, Kevin. You think Feige cares about it? Like Feige is pushing it? Yes,
Feige's pushing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to see what fence. Yeah,
that's the consensus, is that Feige's pushing it, and Feige thinks he's bulletproof, and so he can do anything he wants, and he can move the universe in this direction, and everybody will just be along for the ride. And that's the turmoil, whether it's with Chapek or not with Chapek or with Disney execs or what. But I think some of the diminishing returns that we've already kind of seen as we get into Phase 4 and the stuff that's slated for the rest of Phase 4 and teeing up for Phase 5, it's not great. And I think, even though the people are tuning in to watch the shows, they realize that the quality is diminishing. So
it's a little bit like the listeners of our podcast.
correct.
People tune in, but they realize the quality. Yeah, Podman Ron, what do you have to say?
Well, I was just gonna say the problem is no one really cares about these characters at all. I mean, no one wants to see what's got slated. I mean, they've got the Fantastic Four still up their sleeve, and it's like they really should have released that and really, greenlit that really quick. Because you've got not only the Fantastic Four, but you've got all their villains and their allies, and there's just a whole universe just based on the Fantastic Four that they can introduce into this Phase 4, and it would have been so much better than the garbage that's been trickling out. I mean, not garbage, but
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Well, I mean, Shang-Chi wasn't that bad, and
there we go. All right, movie review time.
Yeah, well, just really quickly, like just to kind of stick that landing, Ironheart launched in 2016. It was canceled in the comic, she debuted in 2016. Her comic started in 2018. It was canceled in 2019. It had 12 issues.
Well, the problem with Ironheart, I mean, it's a good concept, but I mean, you cannot replace Iron Man with a fourth tier character. I mean, you just, it's not going to happen. You've got to build up the character. She hasn't been around that long, and they're just trying to shove it down people's throats, and it's just not working. I mean, you've got to let these characters grow a little bit before you start throwing them in TV shows and movies. I mean,
yeah, I think for a lot of characters like Ironheart, and I think like Vision's kids in the comic, like Viz, and like even Sam Alexander Nova, I think a lot of it's the Miles Morales effect of like Miles Morales was kind of just, as soon as they killed Peter Parker, they're like, well, someone's got to be Spider-Man. And Brian Michael Bendis was like, well, let's just make a brand new character and say, fuck it, he's Spider-Man now.
Yeah, but no, that's not right, though. Brian Michael Bendis
did
everybody
loved
of it.
him, though. Everybody loved him.
It worked there, but Marvel saw that and was like, we could do that again. And so they tried it with Riri Williams. And while she's a likable character, it just doesn't work the same because it just feels like a same rehashed concept.
It is the same rehash.
Keep going. Yeah, and it doesn't. And Brian Michael Bendis writes the same thing over and over again every time he gets a book. So it's just one of those things that Marvel just, I don't know. But I still have faith in the show. I'm not going to judge until I see it, but I'm not excited for it.
Right. Well, and that's the point is like we're getting Thor. We're getting Thor again because Thor's like, yeah, I'll do it again. Right. And it's like they didn't really court Chris Evans, and they didn't really, and Robert Downey Jr., they just kind of let him walk. Like Feige just kind of let him walk. And I think that's some of the pushback now. It's like, who wants to see, I like Sam Wilson. I like Sam Wilson as Cap. But I would prefer to have Sam Wilson as Cap with Steve Rogers still in the mix in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, they could do that whole Commander Rogers thing that they did before in the comic, and it would still have been have him in his SHIELD uniform, and he would be like a Nick Fury, and how they did in the comic book, and then have Sam Wilson be Captain America. I think that would still have Chris Evans in the mix, and you would still have a Captain America with Sam Wilson. So, I mean, I think that would play better than just what they've done.
Kamala Khan's comic book lasted 11 issues.
Yeah.
I mean,
but she's been around longer.
She's been around. Right? She's been in New Warriors, but like they, as a supporting character, she could not hold down her own. So if
her debut series was only 11 issues?
11 issues. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's award-winning too.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like if nobody's reading this stuff and they can't get beyond 12 issues, how do you make a 10 episode show out of it?
Well,
or season 2?
To be fair,
you're right.
Marvel, to be fair to Marvel, they did take already dying characters and resurrect them. I mean, no one was reading the Avengers or Iron Man or hell, fucking Captain America.
But people knew who they were. I mean, I wasn't reading them, but I knew these characters. These new characters, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, that's fair. But, I mean, Marvel, I've liked most of Phase 4, so I'm going to reserve my judgment. But
this is a new Alex. I love this reserve judgment Alex here.
I know. Let me ask you this, Alex, because you weren't on the last podcast for this. But so my thought was they've also boxed themselves into a corner by killing so many of the villains. right?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Well, here's so boxing himself into the corner from the standpoint of, well, even if you got Sam Wilson Cap, wouldn't it be cool to see Sam go against Red Skull?
Yeah.
Right? Like so you've seen how Steve beat him, and now if you were heading towards Phase 4 being Masters of Evil, and it's all the established villains versus the new Avengers, and you're like, they're going to get their ass kicked. Right? And then you get to see then you actually get to see them step up in that movie, right? And prove that they're coming out of the shadow of Iron Man and Steve Rogers and Captain America and all that stuff. But no, they've killed all the villains, so many of the Marvel villains, like you don't get to see those rematches either. So now it's like we're getting second-tier heroes and third-tier villains. Because most of these characters, most of these properties have had 2 or 3 sequels, right?
That's why they really needed to premiere the Fantastic Four and get all their villains into the mix and all that.
Right.
Well, and I wonder if the whole reason why they're pushing back Fantastic Four is it's it could be boring. It's a family. How do we do it? We've had 2 of these movies that didn't land. That, or just the standpoint of it's an older character. It's an old white dude in his family. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's an old white dude in his family. What is that? What?
Well, actually, they could do
message
like
does
the
that send?
Incredibles. The Incredibles was a huge hit for Disney and Pixar, and just do it like that. I mean, that was fun entertainment. I mean, I liked your idea, Brian. The way they should do it, that's a no-brainer. I don't know why they wouldn't do it like that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's all the pieces are on the table, right? You get the negative zone, the quantum realm, whatever you want to do.
You've got everything that they could make them.
Yeah, you find out Reed discovered it first, and and got trapped in it in the '60s, and that's why he hasn't interacted with Hank Pym. He hasn't interacted with Tony Stark. You can do the whole Forrest Gump thing and work him in with a young Michael Douglas, and then just
you can also do the whole how naive they would be. Like I always thought, and this is y'all are all gonna think this is insane, but the Brady Bunch movie from the 90s. You remember how they were all acted like they were in the
Those were great.
Still?
Yeah.
I mean, but you could act like these guys are, they're just out of time, just like Steve Rogers was out of time. These 4 would be out of time, and there would be so much entertainment.
And you could even do stuff like goofy stuff like the way Reed builds his machines. Because
he's kind of old looking.
School.
Yeah,
like old school, like kind of steampunkish, or
Well, that's why you could explain the Fantasticar. I mean,
yeah. He's all his ideas are a '60s aesthetic.
Right.
Well, Podman Ron, I know you wanted to keep things rolling here, but I did want to ask this real quick. So, who else? If you take the Fox stuff off the plate, so take Fantastic Four and X-Men out of the picture for right now, okay? Take all of the TV shows that are coming out, not a whole lot, but Moon Knight, She-Hulk, those type things. Who else of interest does Marvel have that they could say this is the new Cap, this is the new Iron Man? Who else is there?
Yikes!
Yeah, you take take Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man, all their little mini universes off the plate. I honestly do not know. Who else do you have?
I mean, you could really dig.
You got the Defenders.
You could dig deep and do like the Squadron Supreme, where they would be a rip-off of the Justice League, and probably do the Justice League better than what DC ended up doing.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Because they already tried that.
Well, I think part of this is going to tie into the post-credit scene of Eternals, right? But if you've got, we've established Black Knight. Henry Cavill has said he wants to do Captain Britain, right? You could even bring in. You could do alternate universe and bring in Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. You could do any of that kind of stuff and almost make it like a British Avengers. Union Jack would be cool,
Excalibur, so Union
have
Jack
Hercules. Hercules.
They could even go back
Yeah.
do a Captain America and the Invaders back in World War II. That took place during the whole filming of the first Captain America, just behind the scenes. Do the original Human Torch that they never, they just touched on.
Okay.
You still got you got Namor still out there. I mean, he's still...
Think about this with Union Jack, Captain Carter, and Captain Britain's costumes. It would be cool to have almost like a team with X-Men type uniforms, but it's all integrating like the British flag.
Well, that's called Excalibur, though.
Oh, I know.
It was an X-Men team, but that would be a cool team to do. With that would be an Excalibur team. But I think there's some properties that would be still viable for Marvel. But getting to Brian's point, it makes a good one that, I think Feige is just blowing through all these really quick, and now we're getting down to third and fourth tier level heroes that they're just trying to pump up, and it's just not working. I mean, they don't have enough history behind them to do anything with.
But it's twofold. You've got second tier heroes, but like third and fourth tier villains, because all of the Captain America had 4 movies.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call
Iron Man had 4 movies.
A second tier. I would call her a third tier. I mean,
well, yeah, right. But like, I'm thinking about Sam. Sam. Sam's second tier, right? He's second tier, but who's he going to fight? Right? I mean, he isn't going to fight Red Skull.
Injustice.
Right? I mean,
inequality.
Exactly.
Well, I did read right before before we started here that I don't even know where I read it or what the source was, but Captain America 4 is going to be a Rocky movie, in the sense that Cap is going to be the complete underdog the entire time. So so get your head around that. He's new to the role and all that stuff, so he's going to be up against a lot of internal struggles, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but against who? Like that's the whole thing for me. Is it's like it's not going to be Arnim Zola. It's not going to be Red Skull. It's not.
Here's another thing. I mean, just what you said, Brad. If you think back at the other Captain America movies, he was never like that. He didn't have internal struggles against all this crap. No one wants to see that.
That's all superheroes do nowadays.
Yeah, well, you don't want to see a sad sack superhero struggling with his idea. No, you want to
his shrimp boat. He's trying to keep his shrimp boat afloat.
Nobody wants to see that bullshit. I mean, you
drama.
go to see him, kick ass and be confident and all that, and a leader. You don't want to see him all sad sack and everything. I mean, that's...
he could be fighting Tiger Shark. Tiger Shark could be attacking his shrimp boat. And that's his villain.
I understand that y'all just want kind of just action romps, but these are movies. Movies have to have character development. They have to have emotion behind them, or else you're not going to care, and then you're going to bitch about not caring.
True.
Yeah, but see, part of the problem, Alex, is the statement you just made. It's like, oh, this is a movie. We have to give it all this extra context. Yes, if it's good, if it serves the story, if it's interesting. But like stapling on his niece and nephew and sister he's never mentioned before, giving him a shrimp boat, it's like what the what? He's never mentioned any of this shit before.
Why?
He was just keeping it to himself.
Why should I suddenly care about this? Like I don't. Why?
Because he's a secondary character. Also, you have 6 hours of TV. You got to fill it out somehow.
You got to just pad that shit out. Hey, all right. We got to keep moving. This is 20 minutes we've talked about this. Guys. All right. Speaking of TV, real quick, here we go.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. All right. I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah. Go ahead and hit pause for mute and everything there for you. All right.
This one probably hurt Brian the most.
All right, Brian, what happened in in this week's In Memoriam?
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton passed away. No, sorry, Dean Stockwell.
I was
Harry Dean Stanton. I watched.
Did you watch Blue Velvet?
So upset he can't remember his name.
I watched.
He's in denial.
I watched Escape from New York earlier, and so I was thinking Harry Dean Stanton and Dean Stockwell.
I will have to say, when I put it on the group chat, Brian's first words were, I thought he was already dead. And so did I. I did. When I read that, I was like, didn't he die like 5 years ago? Yeah. So I think that's a Mandela effect right
That's
there.
a testimony to his libido. He kept going.
Yeah, I swear, I thought he was dead. I mean, the man looked like he was 65 in when Quantum Leap was on.
Yeah, so, unfortunately, he was our age right now, which tells us what we look like.
All right.
Well, here, let me. So, great actor. I love Quantum Leap. He was also in Dune. right? He played the Doctor in Dune 1981, the traitor Doctor.
Okay.
But I watched, as I said, Escape from New York earlier today, and
That's a good movie.
Ernest Borgnine was in it.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten Ernest Borgnine was the
Adrian
cabbie.
Barbeau, yeah.
Adrian Barbeau. There's something weird. I want to mention that too. But Ernest Borgnine's in it, and I'm like, this fucker looks 70, and this is 1981.
Is Ernest
And
Borgnine?
Ernest Borgnine just died like 5 years ago.
Okay.
He was like 95 when he died or something.
Still, though, I mean, in 81, I mean, he must have been 50, but he looked 70, no, not a day under 70
Handsome
in this
man.
movie.
Very handsome man.
So,
Very
but,
handsome bulldog.
it's Brad, you'll enjoy this. So I watched Escape New York,
from
and
New
I
York.
realized apparently, I don't know if John Carpenter. There had to have been 3 ways with him, John Carpenter, Donald Pleasance, and Adrian Barbeau, because he put him in every movie.
Yeah, I loved
he was
him. Loved
he
him.
was married to Adrian Barbeau, but why do you keep bringing in Donald Pleasance for everything?
He was in, like, I mean, obviously Halloween and Ghost of Mars. Shit. King of Darkness, Prince of Darkness, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loved Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance. I'm just assuming there were a couple, a triplet couple.
I would think so. And now that we're on a complete tangent here, my youngest son said he wants to be Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis next year for Halloween. He started calling it, because we watched all the Halloween movies, and he started calling him the Eggman. He's like, that's what I want to go as next year, is the Eggman.
Eggman.
I'm like, okay, that's an easy costume. We can do that. All right. How about some movie reviews? Alex, would that make you happy? Can you come off mute now?
Thank fuck.
All right, we got a couple of great movies, great action-packed movies full of emotions here that we want to talk about. We want to talk about Dune and Marvel's The Eternals. I'll go ahead and go on record that I have watched Dune, but it was 2 weeks ago and I kind of forgot it. But I know, Brian, you're a big Dune fan. The books, the movies, you've already name dropped the first movie. So I know we look forward to hearing from you. Alex, you haven't had a chance to talk too much. I want to toss it to you first for a Dune synopsis here. Can you give us a synopsis?
A Dune synopsis. I haven't read the book or anything, so
Good.
This is going to be really good. Planet, aliens. Really rich people are trying to help planet from evil alien people who are trying to steal the planet.
What the fuck did
Excellent.
you watch?
That is it. Nailed it.
There's poor people that live on the planet, and the poor people are trying to get helped by the rich people.
Did
Yep.
you watch the news? 'Cause
Same old
that-
story.
Timothy
That
Chalamet
sounds
is
like
like
the
a
news.
Timothy Chalamet is like a witch kid.
Yeah.
It's confusing and long, but kind of good.
Let me just
And
say.
I liked it.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. So you want to talk now? I didn't think it was your turn. Anyway,
Well,
Oh,
I
no.
watched the movie, so yes, I'd like to talk.
I watched the movie.
It must be the
I watched
meds.
the movie. I was just doing homework theory. It was fine. I'm more excited for part 2 than this.
All right. That is a son of PMR review right there. That was fantastic. Podman Ron, tell us a little bit more about Dune. What was your experience like?
Here's my experience with Dune. All right, now, Brian told me, gave me a heads up on it, and was like, you're really going to love this movie. So he kind of he filled in some
Okay.
backstory
Gave you
for
some
it.
cliff notes.
And, he was like, it's like Star Wars. It's like, George Lucas stole from this, and it's a little bit better than, they explained the Jedi should be like this and all that. And Brian was right. But
Yeah.
here's the situation with this. I feel like when me and Brian were in college together, we had a class together, and we had to do a report. We had
One
to do
semester.
A report. Hold on, I'm going to a point. We had to do a report, and Brian did his, and I said, "Hey, can I borrow yours for a little bit?" And,
What? Wait a minute. Are you
yeah.
talking about you and Brian or you and me in high school?
No.
No, he did it to me too.
Oh, he did that to you too?
So I borrowed Brian's report, but I jazzed it up a little bit.
You gave it a little flash.
I gave it a little flash. I put
Nice.
pictures with
Very
it.
smart.
A picture of a car and all this stuff with it. And
Clip
I got
art.
like an
He
A+.
went and grabbed clip art.
Yeah.
I got like an A+, and Brian got like a B.
No, I got an A, but he got an A+. So yeah, so it was supposed to be this report we were supposed to write. It was like on mileage or something, like oil consumption and mileage and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a Dune review.
Well, hang on.
There's a reason for it.
And so mine was like 3 pages long, and PMR his was like 1 page.
Right.
And so he put in
That
clip
car
art
there, though,
of
man.
like oil pumps and like clip art of
Yeah. The
cars
rigs
and stuff. And we're not talking like like a thumbnail picture. It was like the picture was a third of the page. And so he made this thing from like 3/4 of a page to like 5 pages.
This was 90s clip art too. We're not even
Nice.
talking like
It would be like 2 sentences, giant picture of a car.
Caption
3
under
sentences, oil drill. And so he turns it in, and yeah, I got an A, and he got an A+.
Wow.
And I was like,
Damn
this
right.
fucker.
Now here's my point in this.
Yes.
In the story. It's like George Lucas took this very kind of boring story and he added robots and he added cool music
Yeah.
and he added like cool spaceships, and it's the same story. But
Wow.
George Lucas just flashed it up a little bit and made
But
Star
Dune
Wars.
has sand. More sand.
Even
Yeah,
more
but-
sand than
but-
Tatooine.
But that's, like I said, it's the same story, but Dune is very boring and very dry. It's good in a way, like the story is interesting and you'd like to hear more about these characters, but really nothing goes on. I mean, it's a lot of talk and a lot of, trying to get to the point of what's going on, kind of like what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And, but George Lucas flashed it up a little bit, and that's why Star Wars was so successful. And that's why Dune needs to throw in a couple of robots in there.
They have a few robots, but not cutesy ones.
Dune is definitely a part 1.
Yeah, it's a part 1. Here's the thing: there's stuff that goes on. There's history to all this that gives it more context. But if you're just trying to I'm just trying to get to the next explosion, then you're going to miss out on some of the stuff, right? It's like watching Goodfellas versus The Godfather, right? I mean, Goodfellas or Casino, right, is more actiony than The Godfather is, but The Godfather is the drama piece. Like anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
So with for people that were new to Dune, didn't read the books, essentially what happened is it's set like in the year 11,000
in a galaxy
right.
far, far away.
Yeah, it's set 8,000 years from now, right? It's in our galaxy, but it starts in our galaxy, and we've inhabited like hundreds of worlds, and so as we expanded into space, it was still an empire, but because of you didn't have instant communication, you had all these different planets that eventually, even though it was an empire in name, it was all just these little fiefdoms, right? And so then somebody invents basically Ansible communication, which is in Ender's Game, where it's instant communication, right? And you saw the cocoon-looking thing that the ships were flying out of when they landed on Arrakis. That was a space bridge. Now, they didn't really spend much time explaining it, but that was a space bridge. But the guy that invented Ansible communication also invented the space bridge. So when that happened, the emperor, there was a 1,000-year war. The empire was able to again put all of their planets back in control, headed by one emperor. So the whole thing with the reason why the Harkonnens were taken off of Arrakis and the Atreides were put on Arrakis is because the Atreides were becoming very popular with the other houses and the fiefdoms, other governors of planets, right? They were in the Galactic Senate, right? It's not a Senate because it's an empire, but they were becoming very popular, and the Emperor saw House Atreides as a threat. So he wanted but he also saw the Harkonnens as a threat because they controlled the spice trade on Arrakis. So he removed the Harkonnen from Arrakis, then put the Atreides on Arrakis, and basically pitted them against each other to thin out the herds, thin out their armies, and make both houses weaker. He didn't care who won; both houses would be weaker and less of a threat to him. You don't see the Emperor. The Emperor is only alluded to in the movies, but that's like the context of everything that's happening. And they did not explain that in some sort of exposition, right? But I think some people probably missed that piece.
It would have been great to have like some sort of scroll at the beginning of it. That would have been nice. I mean, well,
exactly.
Yeah, a little bit of flash there, Brian. That's what we needed.
Did we like the movie or did we not like the movie?
All right, let's go.
The movie.
Yeah, loved it. He gives it a 5 out of 5, right?
I do. I give it 5 out of 5.
Wow, that's impressive.
I would give it a 3 out of 5. But I will see it. I will watch it again, and I will see the second one. So
that sounds like a 4 to me. If you're going to rewatch it, what are the rules again for the ratings?
Okay, yeah, that is. You know what? I'll change it. I'm going to say I will give it a 4 then.
Okay, there you go. Look at that, Brian. I'm fighting for you.
Look at that.
I will give it a 4 as well. I enjoyed it.
I will also give it a 4.
Okay.
There you go. Look at that.
I'd probably give it a 5 if I paid more attention, but I can give it a 4 just.
Yeah, you need to watch it again, Alex, before it's off of HBO Max.
I'll probably watch it again when the second one comes out.
All right. Yeah, you may have to. Yeah, my biggest problem in it was Timothy Chamont or Chalet or whatever. Chalamet. I kind of got tired of looking at him. I'm sure that he's hottie with all the girls and some of the guys out there, but he just had that dead stare the entire movie.
And he's famous for spreading chlamydia around NYU's campus.
Well, there you go. I mean, hey, who can resist that? I applaud him for that.
Yeah.
But the
dead chlamydia?
Dune chlamydia? Spicy chlamydia? Rub some spice on that, baby. You'll be okay. But yeah, his deadpan look the entire movie, which may be within character, was kind of like, I'm sick of this kid already. Get him out of here. Get him off screen.
I think my favorite character was the mom. Can't remember her name.
Yeah,
Lady Jessica. There's another cool thing that they didn't take the time to express, but like I think this gives texture to it. Unlike saying, hey, Paul Atreides has a shrimp boat. The whole thing with Lady Jessica was not married to Duke Leto Atreides, right? But the reason why they never married is because she was a part of the Bene Gesserit, which they were the Jedi, right? But they're an all-female cast of Jedi, and they were put as advisors to these different houses, right? And so, but in the universe, houses only marry to combine houses and to create more strength, like for their houses.
Right.
So all the marriages are marriages of
convenience or
arrangement, right? And so the fact that Leto did not marry Jessica meant he actually loved her. They actually fell in love. And so like that was kind of like the whole thing. It's just kind of a cool wrinkle to it. The reason why he didn't marry her is because it meant more not to marry her and not seek and use his authority to go combine with some other kingdom, right? But yeah, that's just another kind of wrinkle to it all. Then the Bene Gesserit stuff is super cool. Anyway, Alex, I don't know but we talked about this on the last podcast. The Lucas was going to call the Jedi Bene Jedi in early scripts.
So. Lucas had a lot of just really original ideas, didn't he?
Poor George Lucas.
And we said this before, but when Star Wars came out, they interviewed Frank Herbert, and he said, "Yeah, it's going to be really difficult not to sue George Lucas." So,
ouch.
Yeah.
There's so many things he ripped off.
Except for the robots, he didn't rip that off. Nothing to rip off on there. Do robots appear in Dune later, Brian?
No, but that's because of the Mentats, and this is something else they didn't delve into.
Fuck is the
Mentats. The Mentats, the guy that I forget his name, but he was the second, or he was the advisor to Baron Harkonnen, the guy that played
Polka Dot
Man, right?
Okay.
He's a Mentat, and they're like living computers, and so their brains are like wet wired. So they are
droids.
Yeah, so that's kind of your robot. That's kind of your robot. He was kind of the robot. It's just he's not metal. They wet wired his brain to where he is a computer. The Mentats are computers. So
should have made him shiny.
That's
George
not
Lucas,
fun.
you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
Son of
somebody
a
wants to
bitch.
see that.
You son of a
So
bitch.
overall, everybody. No, I did say that again. Aside from some of the very again, probably purposefully stilted acting. It reminded me a lot of like Phantom Menace and stuff like that, where the lines are just delivered void of emotion almost in some cases, like Natalie Portman and the prequels or something. So that kind of bothered me.
It was definitely another thing that's kind of funny, is there was no humor in this whatsoever. I mean, there was no
it was very dry.
From
the
desert. Yeah.
can I give you guys another like little tidbit?
Oh,
So
God.
again, this is kind of where Lucas ripped it off, right? The whole scene where Paul.
I'm sorry. You mean Lucas improved it?
Well, no, where Paul has
Sarlacc?
got has his hand in the box, right? And he's like, "What's in the box?" It's pain, right? That whole scene, again, it's kind of subtext, but it's Anakin. It's the whole thing with Anakin. It's when Anakin's in front of the Jedi Council. She's testing Paul because they knew he was powerful, right?
Right.
And then there's the he's the chosen one. It's the Kwisatz. Crap, I'm losing, but forgetting the name. But basically, the Bene Gesserit bred only women because there was this chosen one that was going to be a male that was going to have a incredible power over or like be an incredibly powerful Bene Gesserit. But so Jessica they didn't want Jessica to have a son. She did. And so they were testing him to see if he could control his emotions. That was the whole thing. His hand was in the box to see if he could control his emotions, because if he couldn't control his emotions, she was going to have to kill him. Just like Anakin. So.
But again, no robots.
But
No
again,
robots.
no robots and no humor. Yeah, no, the music was great, cinematography was great, costumes were great. I liked all of the outfits and all that kind of stuff. Art direction, very quiet movie, so it was a little bit hard to pay attention to if you didn't bathe yourself in the books as Brian did.
Yes, I loved it.
I
loved it.
Obviously.
I loved it.
I loved it. It took me a couple of times to get through it. But all that being said, I enjoyed it. I will rewatch it again if I have extra 3 hours to waste. All right, Alex, anything else you want to talk about Dune to try to tell Brian that he's wrong?
No.
Not worth it? You want to save it up for the next one?
I mean, it's a fine movie, and I probably will really love it if I watch it again. But I also think probably watching it at home wasn't the best idea. It probably does need to be seen in theaters.
It's fine.
But
it's fine.
I'm sure they'll do one of those double features when the second one comes out.
Yeah, Alex, you need to see it in a theater if you can.
Yeah.
Like the scope of it on a giant screen is pretty cool.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
see.
And before we leave, real quick, Brian, since you are the Dune fan here, how did it compare to the 1980s movie?
Oh, infinitely better. I mean, the 1980s movie looked like a Doctor Who episode, compared to this.
Right.
So
But that's sign of the time. It felt like it was, and I think I may have told you, it felt like it was the same story, which sounds stupid, but it's like, it almost seemed like it was a shot-by-shot remake.
Yeah,
as opposed
the beats were...
Yeah, as opposed to, whatever it is. But, 30 years later, here's a redo of the movie. We're not doing a shot by, there's things that were like, oh my God, this was not in the first movie. I didn't feel like that there was too many of those things in there.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have the battle scenes. I mean, it was alluded to,
Right.
you know, but it was like the running down a hallway, you know, like,
Right.
but you didn't see, you know, like carpet bombing, you know, a spaceport, that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, it was the 80s movie. You had more of Baron Harkonnen in it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. This is half of the first book.
Yeah, I got you.
So you had, yeah. I mean, if you look at like if you take half of what was done in the 1984 movie or 3 movie, whenever it came out, like it's well, you know that Gurney Halleck lives, right? Because Gurney Halleck was Patrick Stewart.
Oh, okay.
So Gurney, you know, you'll have Gurney Halleck come back, who was Thanos.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
James Brolin. Josh Brolin. Which one?
Josh Brolin. So Josh Brolin's coming back, although Duncan Idaho is not. So.
Wow. Spoiler alert there. All right. Well, good. Well, I'm glad we're off to a great start here with our movie reviews. Now let's turn our attention to the Eternals, another space opera. Can I call it?
Can we play
that,
the
Alex?
memoriam music?
Oh yeah.
No.
No, I mean the two very cinematic space operatic movies. You know, Alex, I want to I want to toss it to you again.
Okay.
And can you give us a better synopsis of the Eternals?
I can. So the Eternals are placed on Earth about 7,000 years ago.
Wow.
Like at the dawn of humanity, and they've lived on Earth that whole time. They barely have interfered, but they've kind of interfered. But it's okay. We don't worry about that part. And they're placed on Earth to defend it against the Deviants. That's their order by Ereshkigal. But in the year 2023, where this is set, the Deviants are back, but there's some confusion, and they're killing Celestials, they're killing Eternals, but there's some confusion about what's going on, why are they back, how are they back, what's going on the Earth, man. And yeah, that's the Eternals.
That's pretty much it. Excellent.
That's
See, I would have said Earth is an egg.
It's really, if you want to know the most blunt version, the Eternals is a movie about abortion. That's really the whole.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a movie.
Oh, it's not just about that.
It's about.
So you're saying the Eternals is an abortion of a movie?
No, Eternals is a movie about the
There's
morality.
an
of
analogy.
abortion.
Okay.
It kind of is. It kind of is, right? I
It's
mean,
a metaphor for abortion.
if a woman's going to have a child, but might not survive childbirth, is it okay to abort the birth? That's essentially, yeah, you're right, Alex. That's essentially this movie.
That's essentially the overarching plot. That's the moral plot.
I don't know about all that.
Podman Ron, did you go that deep into the Eternals?
No, I did not.
Or were you just sitting there with your hot coffee and popcorn saying, where's the action?
I say that.
Where's the
more
car
as a joke.
chase?
I don't really.
Where's the
I don't
car
really
chase?
look
Where's
at
the
Eternals
explosion?
as a moral confounding statement. Yeah, never mind. We'll shut up now.
I don't know. Alex, you should have waited for the NyQuil till after the podcast.
Yeah.
My bad.
Podman Ron, I mean, I don't know what these two knuckleheads are talking about. I have not seen it. I would have loved to have seen it if someone would have invited me, but...
fuck you, Brian. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck.
I have never seen Podman Ron, a grown man, beg so hard just trying to get me to go see this movie
Jesus
that
Christ.
I had
Needed
no
someone to keep
desire
him
to
awake.
see. I mean,
Well-
trying to use my kids and everything. I mean, he pulled out all the stops.
I was trying to use death, and
Yeah, you did. You actually said,
left on this earth.
I mean, that which is
I was pulling it all out.
it was the wrong argument. You basically were saying that, Brad, you don't know when you're going to die. You need to live your life to the fullest.
And you could die during this movie.
And to do so, you should probably go see this 2.5-hour movie with me, as opposed to spend time with your family.
You see your family all the time. Jesus Christ.
Anyway,
Anyway,
Fuck your family. See Eternals.
I had no desire to see it. I'm hoping by the end of this review, I will have a desire to see it when it's free on Disney
I'll
Plus.
give you one.
here,
I hope nothing I say convinces you to see this film.
Okay. I want to hear from PMR real quick.
Okay, the bad things about this movie. All right,
The start, the middle, the end.
The post-credit scenes?
no, it's not as bad as you think it is.
It's worse.
Strangely enough, this is how you started the Shang-Chi review.
Now, the problem is this: it's
5 out of 5.
all the characters, there's 4 women in this movie, I believe.
Oh, here we go.
This is not looking good.
All right. Well,
Well, they're
PMR
all the
must
same
have cut out real
characters.
quick.
Hold on a minute, y'all.
Let's
They're
listen.
all the
Say
same
chicks.
character.
Let's let him
Let's give
talk.
him some credit.
Let's let him talk.
They're all the same character. There's no distinction in their personality. It's just weird. Because in the comic book, like Cersei, I like this lady that played Cersei, but in the comic book,
Not enough to learn her name.
Gemma something or another.
Okay, Gemma.
Gemma Chang. Anyway,
Chang would be very racist. We don't
of course
do
it
that.
would be. Of course it would be.
Well, she's
Didn't you
Asian.
learn anything from watching the Eternals, PMR?
Come on, Chang.
Anyway, the problem is they're all the same. I mean, Cersei in the comic books is like a party animal. She's like, she has fun. She's very, she's been on Earth all these years, and she's just enjoyed her experience. And she's like,
She's a slut.
Oh.
well, no, she has a.
Is this where the abortion comes in?
She has a very wild attitude. In this movie,
She's a girl gone wild.
she's gone wild.
God,
But in this
gone wild.
movie, they all play the same. I mean, everybody is just kind of
No personality.
None. And the guys are about the same thing too. I mean, they're all the same. It's just there's just the only one that shows any type of different personality is Kingo. I mean, that's the only one that has any type of personality to him.
So
and his little ballet chauffeur who's with the team. That's it. The rest of them are just like kind of flat.
no.
And that's why a James Gunn movie, when he does a team up movie and he puts all the different personalities and they play off of each other's personality, that's why it's much more successful than this, where they couldn't play off each other's personality because they all had the same fucking personality. So when you had a little
You need
dinner
a Han
scene
Solo.
like they did,
Yeah.
it seemed forced. It just didn't seem funny because it was just kind of blah.
So real quick, we did jump into this, and I meant to do. I would ask Brian to do a little get us up to speed here, but I'm afraid Brian would give us too much information. So, Podman Ryan, can you give us a little bit of background of, in the comic books, who the hell are the Eternals, and why should we care about them?
You should not care about them, and I don't fucking know because I never read the book.
Oh God!
It's basically, Brian would say it's a rip-off of the New Gods, and it's basically right. I mean, it's a rip-off of the New Gods. It's kind of a rip-off of the Inhumans. I mean, it was just Jack Kirby coming over from DC with the idea of the New Gods, because he quit DC and came back over to Marvel, and he came up with the Eternals, which was just patented after the New Gods, which he created over at DC.
So Alex, these are fair enough to call them. They're part of the whole space kind of thing of. I mean, these are not superheroes.
Of Marvel.
Okay,
No.
they're cosmic heroes.
They're cosmic heroes, and to the how they were created and stuff. It was basically it is that Jack Kirby went over to DC and created the New Gods. New Gods only lasted like 6 issues before it was canceled.
That's not true. No,
It wasn't many.
like
He pulled a Miss Marvel on you.
Orion, Mr. Miracle, they all went like 30 plus issues.
Really?
Forever People, I think, went 18 issues.
Well, let me kind of cut it short. I mean, so maybe to what your kind of point here, Brian, is that New Gods, Darkseid, Orion, Mr. Miracle, those are still kind of part of the DC pantheon. Has Eternals been a part of the Marvel pantheon since the 1970s when Jack Kirby created them? I mean, you know what I mean?
Neil Gaiman in like 2006, 2007 did a New Gods miniseries.
Eternals miniseries.
I'm sorry, Eternals miniseries that they pulled a lot of this out of with the Celestials and everything. And so a lot of this is more the Neil Gaiman story than it really is any of the Jack Kirby stuff. So
I will say, they used bits and pieces of the Eternals back in the 90s with the Avengers. Like I was talking about Cersei, that's why I was so familiar with her, because she was in a 90s run of the Avengers for about 3 or 4 years. And that's actually where Black Knight and her romance, they took that from, is that 90s Avengers storyline. Because there was like a love triangle between Cersei, the Black Knight, and Crystal from the Inhumans. You had like a love triangle. So, I mean,
he loves a woman with a stripe in her hair.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. So Eternals kind of was in and out of the Avengers during the 90s because of Cersei was prominent in the Avengers basically all during the 90s she was. But then after, the start of the 2000 and the new Avengers came about, she hasn't really been in the Avengers comics in forever.
So again, these are I don't know what tier heroes. But again, as we talked about at the top, I mean, these are unknown to movie audiences, and for the most part, probably unknown to comic book audiences. So, So again, why Marvel chose to do these? Maybe will be revealed in a larger plan at a later time. We don't know.
One of the reasons I kind of like this movie. I mean, I thought the story was decent. I like the storyline was good. The plot was pretty good in my opinion. It just was kind of slow there. The celestial designs were cool, but what I really liked was you introduced 10 characters, and even though they were kind of boring, by the end, you had 3 go in one direction, 3 go in another direction, and it's kind of a way to populate the Marvel universe with superpowered beings, that you can have 1 or 2 join the Guardians and have another one join the Avengers, and you don't have to keep them as Eternals all the time in a movie. They're gonna show up in all these other series, and I think that's what Marvel is just trying to do, is
and slow down the pacing in those movies.
Well, yeah, they're just trying to introduce a bunch of superheroes and one big shot.
But they're introducing a bunch of stale superheroes.
Well, that's why they needed to punch them up. I mean, the personalities, just something needed to be done. I mean, their powers weren't bad. I thought they had decent powers, but they were just personality.
They come around to me, right?
Yes. So I was gonna say, Brian. So personality wise, these guys are as dry as a dune desert. But was there some spiciness in their powers? Like, did they all had different powers? Each person represented a different emotion or feeling or power or something like that?
I mean, they had different powers, but I mean, they didn't really even get into defining what their powers were. I mean, if you're watching this movie, what's Icarus's powers? He can fly and shoot laser beams.
Yeah,
from his eyes. But is he impervious?
No,
I don't know. Is he super strong? I don't know. What's Cersei's powers?
They show a lot.
They show that. Yeah, they show that
she can.
Icarus is not invulnerable in the first 5 minutes.
She can rearrange matter, right?
Right. Yeah.
Gilgamesh has a power glove, right?
Gilgamesh? No,
he's super strong.
Yeah, he's super strong. Gilgamesh is.
Kingo can shoot stuff, lasers from his fingers.
Right.
Right.
So blast from his hand.
Sprite is super fast.
Sprite's not super fast. Makari is super fast. What's Sprite's powers? She can tell a good story.
No, she can do illusions.
She does illusions. She's like Loki.
So, yeah, they've got powers.
We got more, they got powers.
I could tell you every single one of their powers. Very simple.
What's Ajax powers?
Ajax powers? She can heal people.
Yeah.
Wow, they got it. You're talking to the two biggest Eternal fans, Brian.
What?
No, I mean, it wasn't. I guess the powers weren't impressive to me, but
cool.
Or were they?
Superman flies.
Well, let me ask you this: were they did these characters kind of more or less appear on screen and they had their power? It sounds like maybe there was no character arc. Is that a fair statement or no?
Can I feel this?
Yes.
All right. So here's I hated this movie. Like
let me preface
with
it.
a passion.
Wow.
I hated this movie.
I couldn't tell.
So it's they took the lamest plot device to tell this story. One, they gave us boring ass characters and then kept doing flashbacks. So it's like exposition, establish a character that doesn't have much personality. Now let's flash back to a week ago or 200 years ago or whatever and explain some backstory of this character that you didn't care about to begin with because they're like watching grass grow.
Yeah,
they're boring as hell. They're boring as hell. So now let's watch them talk and then do a flashback to shit that happened 200 years ago that you don't care about any of these characters. So it's like, so it's an 80s bottle episode flashing back to shit that you don't care about that happened to people you don't care about for 2 hours.
The flashbacks just didn't do much for me. I mean, they were just kind of like, okay, that.
And it was 2 hours of that. It was 2 hours of that. It was the the joke in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse where it's like one more time and they go back and they tell everybody's origin story, but it's funny, right? They do it as a plot device, but it's a joke too. That's what this did. But they're like, oh, this is how we tell the story. No, this fucking sucks. But yeah, so it's like every time.
Did they come into their powers, or they're just boom? Here's Cersei, and here's her powers.
So then you get into why are they here, right? Why are they here? Because Earth is an egg that is going to hatch, and a celestial is going to pop out.
Okay,
and they're essentially here to make sure nobody fucks with the egg. That's it.
All right.
They're here to sit on the egg and make sure it hatches. That's their whole purpose, right? So then you get into do we get into do we want to move on to something else before you jab the knife further?
I don't know, Alex.
No, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I mean,
Mark.
So what now?
I don't need to talk. You can just keep going.
No, I'm just saying that I agree. I totally agree that the characters are boring, but I mean,
I've had a pause.
I don't think the movie was terrible. I mean, I liked it better than Black Widow. I liked it better. I mean, I could watch this again and not Black Widow. I've been suffering through Black Widow again.
The narrative, I guess, my first strike is the narrative device they chose to tell the story was just stupid. And then they gave us boring ass characters, which made the narrative device even worse, right? So you had 2 hours of sitting through this shit where it just keeps flashing back. Let's talk for 10 minutes. Let's flash back for 8. Let's talk for 10 minutes. Let's flash back for 8. You had that for 2 hours going on.
Not really. You had it for like half the movie. It was like maybe the first act and like half of the second, and then they just went.
No, because you still had the flashback about what happened to Ajax.
Yeah, you had the flashback about
that's like 2 minutes. That's like 2 minutes.
It's
long.
You didn't watch Lost, Alex. You didn't watch Lost, but basically you had Lost where they were flashing back to the 2 days before they got on the plane, and then you had them flashing back to 5 years before they got on the plane. Then you had them flashing forward. Nobody gives a shit about any of this. Like, tell a story and give me a character I actually care about. Like, hey, you don't care about this character, but let's tell you how they got here. I don't fucking care.
Well, Alex, you obviously cared a little bit about the characters, right?
I like the movie. I like it a good amount, actually.
The more Brian talks, I like it better.
No, I remember I saw it Thursday night, and I was like, my expectations were very low. It's got a 40-something Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, all right, here's the disaster. And I came out of it, I went, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, so tell me, as an impartial non-viewer of the movie, what are some of the good things about it? Help me out here, because Brian is not giving me any hope for it, and the more he talks, it feels like he's going to be swinging Podman Ron his way pretty soon.
But
I'll start.
I'm the one doing you a favor, Brad.
Okay.
All right, do me a disservice, Alex. Sell me on this movie.
Okay. I'll start with the negatives. I think the movie needs an edit in Act 1. I think the edit is poor. I think they should have just started with all the flashbacks and then cut to modern day. It makes no sense, and it drags the pacing down in terms of getting our characters and involved in the story.
Yeah.
The issue number two is that I really like the way this movie is shot, and I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's really pretty, but it's also nuanced and relaxed and very cold, like it's trying to reflect something within our characters who are kind of cold. Problem with that is when you have a cold cinematography and all that, is you leave your characters, and if you have a script that kind of reflects that, you leave your characters kind of cold. Now, while I appreciate the characters and I saw them as kind of nuanced and kind of cool to watch, and I enjoyed most of their banter and stuff, I could see a reality in which people saw them and were like, they're very uninteresting and very boring. So in my opinion, the script kind of needed a little bit of a boost in terms of maybe not necessarily humor, but their dialogue needed to be a little more punchier and a little less glary, starey, dramatic stuff. It works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. So those are my issues. In terms of the movie,
Alex,
okay, fine. I'm done.
I'm sorry. No. I want to add something to your point. I got an example that'll underline your point.
Yes.
It's like there's these beautiful backdrops, this beautiful cinematography. I don't dispute that. But when you put two characters in front of that beautiful cinematography and they're boring as hell, there's a disparity there that you pick up. So it's almost like if you took Starry Night, the painting, and then drew Waldo in it.
Yeah.
It's you've got this beautiful landscape, and then these two people that you couldn't care less about talking in front of it. But go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Well, I was gonna say, Alex, you're right. That's a good point. You should have, they should have gotten out of all the boring, well, go ahead.
Okay, the movie doesn't necessarily have to be boring. It's just edited poorly. Now, and the script is not great. But where I do think, in my opinion, where I do like this movie is that for the first time, I think the MCU is trying something a little bit new, a little bit more grounded, a little more nuanced. I appreciate its characters. Not all of them appealed to me. I think actually my least favorite was everyone's favorite in Kingo, which is Kumail Nanjiani's character, because I just thought he didn't really add anything, and he just kind of was wasted jokes, and I didn't really like it all that much. But for me, I found the more grounded nature of who they were and the more moral gray area in which they lied as heroes, quote unquote. I found that really interesting and compelling. I like that this movie was able to say, well, I don't know who's right. I like that aspect of it. I like that conversation. And I like that our characters really struggled with that. Now, does it get a little poor in their concepts? Yeah, it's not executed well. The movie's trying to do way too much at a very small amount of time. Only 2 hours is not enough to delve into all these concepts. But I think the movie does execute what it tries to do pretty well. It's not perfect by any means, and I wouldn't say it's one of Marvel's best movies, but it's trying something new, and it's trying a new type of character format that the MCU hasn't done before. It's not trying a quippy, generic, this person's meant to be this person, blah, blah, blah movie. It's trying to show moral gray characters who don't necessarily know where they stand in this world. They're trying to learn humanity and what's their place in humanity.
They've been here like 7,000 years.
Yeah,
they're slow learners.
But to me, the most fascinating character in my mind was Druig, because Druig is this guy who's like, I should just fucking control humans because they're fucking stupid and I hate them. And
but he doesn't. See, that's the thing. He doesn't. And so, Druig...
He makes a whole little commune because he's like, well, I can't control everybody. I'm not that evil. Because Marvel's not going to go that far. But he controls the commune, and it's really interesting to see a really terrible thing being done. These people are literally being held hostage. But Druig's like, this is what I think is right. This is what I think is just. This is what I think they deserve. And it's like, well, that's a new kind of theme we have going on. And while there's not enough time going on, there's not enough time to develop all of that, what they do introduce and what they can evolve in with a sequel is pretty interesting. Kind of like Dune. I think this sets up a really great sequel. but I don't think necessarily this is the best start. I think this is a lot of expository stuff and kind of dull, and the script isn't that great. But what it introduces is a plot that's really, really cool, and I really enjoy it. Now I'm done.
All right. Wow. All right. And we
have
know
more to say.
I would like a rebuttal. I would like time for a rebuttal. And one thing I did want to hit on, Alex, is that you were one of the few that were excited by the trailer and Chloe Zhao and saying that, yeah, this looks like a beautiful movie. So you still stand by that, right? It's still a very beautifully made movie.
I think it's one of the most gorgeous Marvel movies they've ever put out. I think every shot was really beautifully laid out. I just think it's a really visually, and the score I really like. I think it's just a good looking and sounding movie. But that's my
editing, pacing wise, maybe not so much. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, editing and pacing. It's just not editing, and the script just wasn't on par. But I think that's really only in the first and a little bit of the second act. As soon as the flashbacks dwell down in terms of the 200-year time jumps and stuff, I think once the movie finds its actual just plot instead of expository shit, it's really good. But before that first act's really bad. It's shitty. It's fucking terrible.
5 out of 5.
But 5 out of 5.
Yeah, 5 out of 5.
So help me out here. Either PMR or Brian, how does this tie in with the Marvel universe? I mean, everything you've said so far seems like they're standalone people that no one, the audience doesn't know them. Seems like their characters are boring enough. We shouldn't care for them. How does it fit into everything to where maybe there's a glimmer of hope here?
They reference Thanos. That's it.
That's about it. In one of the trailers or something like that, we did see a wooden Captain America shield or something like that.
That was only in the trailer. It never happened in the in the movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they do say something to the effect of, like, one of the characters says something like, I used to know Thor when he was a baby, and now he won't even return my calls.
Okay.
So they make little references like that. But
that's about it.
That's about it. I mean,
okay.
One of the big plot holes I feel that the whole Thanos thing, mentioning him, was the fact that part of this egg thing that they were doing, the celestial, which is growing within the earth,
and is that really happening, or is that just something that they were told? Lies they were told?
No,
it
really
starts
happening.
to crack. The earth the egg starts to crack.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, this celestial, what happens is it feeds on the life force of humans on the earth. So these deviants were sent to Earth to tackle all the stuff that would be a threat to humans way back when. Well, then the deviants started feeding on the humans. So that's when they send the Eternals to defeat the deviants so Earth could populate. Yeah,
that's not quite right. The deviants were there. It was they told about apex predators. And so they were worried about an apex predator growing on Earth and becoming a threat to the Celestial. So they put their own apex predator on Earth. But it wasn't there to protect humans. It was there to make sure humans didn't get to a point where they became a threat to the Celestial.
Who was the apex predator that they put on Earth?
The deviants. That was their first plan.
Gotcha.
So then
I'm confused.
So then you bring
they say that explicitly.
So then you bring the Eternals to take out the deviants so they wouldn't destroy the humans, so the humans could populate the Earth. And once the population got to a certain amount of, like, 10 billion people, that would be enough energy for the Celestial to break out. The egg
McDonald's hamburgers. Once there was enough humans, just like McDonald's, once they sold enough cheeseburgers, they could shut down.
So wait,
don't you see my plot hole with this with Thanos?
Right, because all of a sudden the heroes are gone. Right, half of them are gone.
Yeah, when you have half the universe gone, so that's half. So Thanos was a threat that they should have probably interjected themselves into taking out. But
who is they? You may have said it, I missed it.
The Eternals, because the Eternals were there.
But who sent the Eternals there?
The Celestial.
Okay, so I'm following you. So the Celestial said that the Earth has a baby Celestial in it, and that's why all this stuff. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Right.
They didn't. It's okay. Here's the big thing.
A
everyone's
mama
missing out on.
celestial and a daddy celestial.
Tell me about how Celestials make
Hug
babies,
in a
Brian.
special way.
Okay, Arishem is the lead celestial who creates the Eternals. The whole thing they're missing out is that most of the Eternals don't know that the Earth is a giant egg. The only Eternals that know are Ajax and Icarus. That's the twist in the movie, basically. Is that none of the Eternals know it, and Icarus knows, but Ajax is finally like, I don't want this planet to die. We're going to stop this emergence, this celestial from breaking us open. We're going to save this planet. And Icarus is like, nah, bitch, we ain't going to disobey orders. He kills Ajax, and then he becomes the villain.
Oh, wait.
So
Okay.
Ajax wants to get an abortion.
Okay.
To Alex's point earlier, she wants to abort the Celestial.
Wait,
and
who is
Icarus tells her no.
Angelina Jolie? Who's Angelina Jolie?
She's Thena.
Oh, okay.
not
Okay.
Athena.
No one's mentioned her yet.
Thena.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She only has like 4 lines in the whole movie, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool. That's just me.
All right, so the Eternals are breaking up because some of them say, "Oh, we want to save the Earth by preventing the Celestial from being born." Let's say some call it an abortion, and then some of the Eternals are like, "No, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make sure that the Celestial is born." Right?
Right.
Okay.
And so that's the twist. That's the twist at like the hour and 15-minute mark. Whatever, like it's at over the halfway point of the movie is when you find this out, right? And so I went from, okay, we've got all this exposition and all these flashbacks to, okay, now we've done a complete 180, right? And for a movie that's all about diversity, right? Who's going to be your bad guy? The white guy.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean,
All
it
right.
is. It is though.
That's
It's true though. It's true though. Like so. And
the movie's
Icarus.
not even about diversity. It just has a diverse cast.
No, they've talked about in the diversity for this movie for such a long time. It's not, the movie's about diversity. It's a diverse cast, and the movie's about diversity. It's
But there's
both.
another white guy on the team. Why is he evil too?
But your Superman
Who was the
Superman
other white
character,
guy on the team?
Druid.
Well, he was evil. He was taking over the.
He was evil too. Yeah, he was taking over people's minds. So the two white guys on the team are evil. Like, so you establish that Icarus, who really, like, the whole movie you think he's a good guy, all this kind of stuff. He's your Superman. He's going to be your breakout star. No, he's the one that killed Ajax, right? He just flatly murdered Ajax, right? And is willing to murder anybody else on the team if they're going to prevent the Celestial from hatching, right? So that just was like it left a bad taste in my mouth, right? Like that. There had to have been a more interesting way of telling that, like setting up that dynamic of should we, shouldn't we, instead of just making Superman
being the villain.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Like but you like there's a way. So we say, oh well, it's Alex, you said it's interesting that they can have this. Well, who's right? Should we do this? Should we do that? Well, Icarus is definitely wrong because he murdered Ajax. So you lost that whole which is right, which
no moral dilemma
because he overstepped the line. You lost the moral dilemma. You lost the plot because he murdered Ajax.
Well,
right?
also,
He has to be the villain. He has to be the villain.
I'm talking about watching the moral greatness through our characters. Obviously, as we're all living on Earth, none of us are in favor of the giant egg exploding and us all dying because of a fucking
but you're right. But you can see their struggle, right? But if you could have gotten to the same struggle and made it more interesting by having Icarus walk the line instead of murdering Ajax, and now he's dead. Now he has to die, right?
But see, I still was sympathetic to Icarus even after. I still saw the struggle where he was coming from and why he was doing what he did, even if I didn't agree with it.
So
I still saw it.
So that was a big that just we went from boring to insulting for me in the film. Like, it went from boring to insulting. And then now you've got Kingo, who just walks out. He just says, you know what? I'm done. I'm heading back to Bollywood. You guys sort this stuff out. So right. So this character, like I know, we're trying to tell a different story. Okay. But the hierarchy, the arc for his character is he's fun loving. He doesn't want to take stuff too serious. He doesn't want everybody to fight. At the end, he has to show up. At the end, he has to show up in the movie and take a side. That's the whole point of this. Is he in the story, his character arc is he has to make a decision, and he doesn't. He leaves and lets them sort it out, and he won't fight. He just walks away from the whole thing, and so he's not in the. He shows up in one of the epilogues of the movie. He just walks away after all of that.
Here, I'll give Brian a plot hole to munch on and shit on about. Yeah, and also Kumail Nanjiani's character, he's like the one most connected to Earth and pop culture, and yet he's the only one who's like, I can't fight in this. I'm just gonna let the world die if it dies. Wow. And he's like the one that's most succeeded based off of.
He's got foreseeably he's got the most to lose of anybody, right? Because he's the celebrity, right?
So let me ask you this real quick. So just from a not thinking about the movie standpoint, from what you guys said about, there is a celestial inside the earth and all. Is Marvel going down a wrong path here, seemingly, with these cosmic storylines? Is similar to, maybe not, it's too dissimilar from comic books where people sit around and talk all the time instead of fighting super villains. It feels like this, we have Eternals that are these cosmic people as opposed to humans. You know what I mean? It feels like we're just kind of missing the Spider-Man, where there's an origin story and someone learns their powers, and maybe we don't want to see another origin story so much, but there's nothing for me as a normal human to connect to these characters, it almost seems like.
Right.
And if there's a celestial inside of the earth, I'm like, well, this is kind of stupid. I can believe Dr. Doom wanting to take over the world, but having a celestial in the middle of the earth,
egg.
That sounds crazy.
And that's why they kind of added Kingo's Alfred, is to give you like the human perspective, of all this. But at the same time, it's like they're all aliens. Like we're just pawns in all this. Like, from that standpoint, it's like, Earth is going to blow up, but you didn't establish any human characters in this movie at all. So it's like,
there's no connection, right?
There's no connection there. But also, Brad and Alex, you didn't read the Neil Gaiman Eternals storyline, right?
I have no connection to this franchise.
All right. So the most interesting part of that Eternals miniseries was, yes, Earth was an egg and there was a celestial inside.
Right.
Right. But the most interesting part about it was that's why there were so many superheroes on Earth, is because Earth was the celestial energy at the core of the Earth. And that was why there were so many superheroes that came out of Earth, almost like, like radiation. Right, like the radiation off the celestial is what made all of these superheroes and gave them all of their powers.
Right?
Right. That's at least interesting, and that ties it back to the Marvel. That makes it important for the MCU. All they needed to do was make 2 sentences in the movie. That was the most interesting concept out of that whole thing, and they're like, fuck it. We don't need to mention that.
Let me ask you, because we talked a little bit about the diversity stuff. Some of the other things that this movie is known for is Marvel's first sex scene. Tell me a little bit about that sex scene. This sounds hot. Was it Cersei?
It looks very boring. What?
You could tell they were topless, and her shoulders were sliding up and down.
Wow, so pretty hot.
You knew what his pacing was, and that at least their chests were touching.
Okay, all right, so close.
He was trying to last as long as possible.
Don't we all? And it was Marvel's first explicitly gay couple. Is that?
Yes, and I will say, Fastos was a really great character, and this part of the movie did make me tear up. I teared up.
What?
I teared up.
What?
Because for the first time in the movie, it was at this point. First off, the movie really picks up pacing here, but also, I think this is the first time I felt like one of the characters felt human, and I felt attached to them because he had a kid, he had a husband,
okay.
he had a
Well,
life.
here's
I was
the thing.
That got me.
Fastos got he got involved, right? And so he had a more satisfying story arc where Kingo,
that's true. You're right with that. That's
Kingo
true.
didn't. Kingo that just highlights the shit that went. And I'll make another point about Kingo in a minute, like that whole thing with Kingo. But yeah, Fastos was fine. Like I was fine with that whole story arc. It made the most sense. He's the one that had the most attachment to Earth because he found a partner. They had a child, right? He had, and like, so aside from Kingo, like he had the most to lose, more to lose than Kingo did, right?
It's weird looking back because it's like there could have been a really great moment for these characters to really, I don't know, I feel like the movie would have been better off showing each of them having a life, and they tried to at least, but I feel like with Fastos, they hit it right in the head because immediately if you have a kid or a partner, it's really intriguing to watch.
You have
and
some
for some
stakes
reason,
there.
yeah, but for some reason, even with Cersei and Black Knight or Dane Whitman, they don't even have as much chemistry as Fastos and his husband had. Like, I felt the love between them, but with Cersei and Dane, I was like, I don't feel anything. So I was like, it's really interesting what characters worked with their dialogue and scene, and where it seemed like there were other characters that were more neglected in the script, even though Cersei's the fucking lead. But it is what it is.
But I honestly think that 7,000 years is a long time for, anybody. I feel like I've been on this earth 50 years and I don't want to be around people anymore. I can imagine like 7,000 years.
I'm with you, brother.
You don't want to deal. I mean, why would you have a family? Because you're going to go through it. They're all going to die. You're going to live here.
This is your father speaking, Alex.
No, but listen.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
This is my point. You're not listening to my point. The point is you're going to have a family at some point in time. That's going to die, and then you're going to have another one, then another one, and it's like after a while you're going to be like, well, no, I mean you're going to be miserable because all you do is you're around these people who are constantly going to die. So you're going to separate yourself from humanity. I mean,
right?
That to me makes a little bit more sense. That after 7,000 years,
they could give a shit less.
Going to be hardened.
Yeah,
your heart's going to be hardened to the fact that you don't want to be around these people because why make any type of connection with them? They're going to die. So you're going to be like separated from them. That's just to me.
That's just
so
normal.
which is makes a very boring movie because the parts that we're talking about are the more interesting parts with Cersei, who has a relationship, or Phasma, who has a relationship. So that's more interesting. But if you got a bunch of people who are, 10 people who are just, separated from everybody because they don't want to deal with it, that's kind of boring. So that's why I think 7,000 years is a little bit too long for any type of interesting character.
A little bit too long for me.
While we're talking about characters that have no development whatsoever, you can't leave out Thena, right?
Oh God, she was terrible. Who we find out Thena is the Athena from Greek mythology, right? She
was too.
Right. But she's Athena. Don't call her Athena. She's Thena now.
Okay.
It's the 21st century.
Ah.
But the you keep getting this. Okay, she's going to remember. She's going to remember. We're going to see the badass. We're going to see the badass. We're going to see the badass. We never saw the badass.
No,
they kept teasing it over and over and over again. So like Kingo, which is like his story arc is he has to get involved at the end, which he doesn't. Her story arc is she was the god of war. She was like Ares. Like she was the greatest warrior on Earth. We're going to see that. You're going to see it. No, you don't. You don't. So it's like there's these things in the beginning of the movie that it's like, okay, well, a natural, journey, the heroic journey says we're going to see these things at the end, and you don't. And so it's just like, what the fuck? Like what? Did you just run out of money? Did you just have too many plot lines and you didn't have time to wrap all this stuff up?
I thought her story, I mean, because it seems like they really kind of punched her up. Something big was going to happen with her, and nothing ever did. I mean, it was just like, okay, that was a waste of Angelina Jolie. I mean, it's basically, she looked like she was just there for a check. I mean,
right.
She barely had any lines. She barely did anything, and just looked menacing every once in a while. And
even when they
smirked,
when they killed Gilgamesh. Like she should have gone berserker rage when they killed Gilgamesh, right? And they killed him because that's also like planting the seeds of you're going to see this badass return. Nope, not
at all.
And back to the Kingo thing I was mentioning a minute ago, because you didn't put Kingo back in the battle at the end, you had to have Icarus make that change for no fucking reason. Like, what changed with Icarus? What changed his mind? I mean, the fact that he was staring at Cersei for 30 seconds? Hell, he just abandons the plan at the very end for no reason. Nobody talks him out of it.
They explain that it was the Celestial, because they tell you that because he didn't have one of the bands on. So how does he even become part of the Unimind? Well, it tells you that the Celestial that was in the Earth helped them unite and form the Unimind to then stop. Icarus basically had no control, and the Celestial basically told him, no, follow your team, this is your purpose. And that's why. He just learned...
The Celestial said, kill me?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. Suicidal Celestial.
Okay. So, all right. But if you had Kingo there, then that's at the very end, that tips the power, that shifts the power back. He gets a satisfying story. You fix the plot with the plot hole with Athena. Athena gets some sort of satisfying ending, right? Infinitely better movie because you've got stories that played out. You invested in a character that was boring to begin with, but you got to see them rise to the occasion. So you had a boring character that didn't have a heroic journey either. So that's a lot of my problems with the film.
We talked a lot of highs and lows here. Let's talk a little bit of this.
Well, there's one last low, right? Oh. So I'm taking this. I'm taking my kids to see this film, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the first film, the first Marvel movie that has a sex scene, right? It was understated, right? But it's still a sex scene, right? It's like, what are they doing, laying on top of each other? Why is she sliding around on the ground? So you had the first sex scene. You also had the first on-screen suicide.
What? Wow.
Icarus kills himself at the end.
How does he kill himself?
Flying directly into the sun.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the most hacky way he could kill himself. He flew too close to the sun.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I want to get into the end credit stuff. And this is, again, kind of with the Earth, with the Celestial in it and all that stuff. And with Thor, they talked about the Norse gods as their aliens and all that kind of stuff. And people thought they were gods way back when or whatever type thing. Now you're telling me that there's Athena and Icarus. Are these the Greek gods? Are they, you know what I mean? How does this tie in with old-timey religion? And we know we're going to have Hercules.
They're who the story's based off of. Sprite makes all these stories about Athena and Icarus. She makes them all up.
Okay. So they're not. They never were gods. They were just celestials that people. Okay, I just wanted to kind of.
But yeah, they even referenced the Icarus flying too close to the sun, and they're like, "Oh, Sprite did that to fuck around with Icarus." But then at the end, when he's like, "Hey, I got to kill myself,"
I guess I'll do it.
Sprite gave me a good idea a few thousand years ago. Let me just fly directly into the sun.
God,
I don't think he's dead. I mean, he flew into the sun, but I didn't see a body melt.
Yeah, well, it sounds like his superpowers are generated by the sun's yellow rays.
The scene is to tell you he's killed himself. Now, if they decide to bring him back, okay. But the scene, his story arc is he knew the plan. He killed Ajax. He tried to kill the rest of the team. He changed his mind. He killed himself. That's his story arc.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so let's talk about the end credit scenes. So we have two end credit scenes, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the first one we get a little we get a little glimpse of perhaps or I don't know if this was but the Black Knight. We've mentioned him a little bit before here, and the Black Knight, who again to me seems like another boring third or fourth tier character to introduce. What purpose is this? Having the
He's kind of the Indiana Jones of the Marvel universe. So his family has he can draw his lineage back to Camelot and the Knights of the Round Table, and so somebody in his and so they even mention like when they're on the ship, they're like, "Hey, is that the Ebony Blade? No, that's just Excalibur. Like, oh, not this piece of shit. Like, it's just Excalibur. No, that's not the Ebony Blade." So they reference the Ebony Blade, and that's what Dane Whitman has is the Ebony Blade. Like, and it's passed down. That's his lineage.
Well,
he's
like
the
I
Black
said
Knight.
before, they're looking to beef up the Avengers team. Black Knight was a longtime Avenger, and his connection was with Cersei in the comic book. So this is a way they're kind of filling in some more Avengers that we've lost over the years. So
I guess so, but is it a good choice? I don't know. Also in this, we also had a kind of a voice cameo of another franchise, perhaps, right?
Correct. It's weird that people were like, "Who was that voice? Who was that voice?" I was like, "It's Blade." The minute I heard it, I knew it was Blade.
Wow. So
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's
And I
Blade.
don't understand why it is Blade.
Yeah, that's what I was
mean,
going to say. Why is that? That seems like an odd choice, right? Or no?
But you could tell his voice. I mean, because he's been in a ton of stuff. But yeah, it's Blade. Is who? Are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman? Like,
Y'all ready for this?
Y'all ready?
So anyway, so that happened, but not much there. The other one that seemed like it may have been a little bit more important of a end credit scene introduced us to Thanos's extended family, and yet another Avenger who I couldn't stand in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I like Star Fox.
Oh, Foxy Star Fox.
Let me tell you a
Tell
little
us a little
backstory
bit
on
about
Star
that.
Fox.
Yeah.
Okay, Star Fox, when he was introduced in the 80s, he was basically Thanos' brother. He was introduced in an Iron Man comic. He came to Earth looking for adventure, and he was always good with the ladies. Well, what he didn't tell in the comic book up until he was an Avenger for like 6 or 7 issues, you found out that he could manipulate people using his pheromones. So he could make people fall in love. He could make people fall in love with him. So he did this throughout the 80s in the Avengers. Well, by the time 2000 came along, everybody kind of said, "Well, that's fucking creepy as shit." You know, he basically was raping. He was
roofing people. Yeah.
Usually in the 90s, Bill Cosby was attached to make a Star Fox movie.
So there you go. So basically, they did a storyline where, there was an issue in Avengers where She-Hulk comes out of his shower, and it was the 80s, so they didn't really say they had sex. She was like, "Thanks for the use of your shower," but then they kind of retconned it in a She-Hulk story where they did have sex in that issue, and she finds out, wait a minute, he just manipulated me. He basically roofied me, and he went on trial for that. And so they kind of made Star Fox a bad guy lately in the past few years because of that. So I don't know if they're trying to retcon him back as a good guy, or if they're going to make him kind of a bad guy again, like an anti-hero again. So, but
his powers are fucking creepy.
They are. I mean,
I don't see how unless they completely change his power set, I don't see how you make that. Especially since you've already got Pip who can create illusions, right? So if Pip can create illusions, like Sprite. I'm sorry.
But wait, she's human by the end. So
yeah, right. But are they going to say, well, he can create illusions too? So now it's like Loki and Sprite and him? Or are they going to say,
no, heroes can't create illusions?
No, I'm saying
they may change it.
But there's different ways to influence people, right? Illusions or his pheromones, so they. So,
All right, so we get to start. Do they call him Arrows? Is he Star Fox? Who is he?
They call them both Arrows and Star Fox.
Oh, okay, nice. And Pip. You mentioned Pip. So Patton Oswalt as a CGI character. Is that correct?
yeah,
A very badly CGI.
a bad CGI character. Yeah.
Did he look like whatever? Not a pan or something? Do I remember that?
Yeah, he looked like a pan.
Okay, so he had horse or goat legs and a human body, something like that. Okay.
Yeah. And it was really piss poor animation.
Yeah, it was not good.
It was a little rushed.
So what does that do for us? I mean, again, it feels like everything that you guys told me. It feels like everything's so kind of disconnected that you have, the Earth as an egg main storyline, and then the end credit scene is like, oh, here's Thanos' brother and this weird Centaur type or whatever creature, and then you have the other one with here's the Black Knight with a sword and blade. It feels like it's so disconnected.
But also you've got 3 of the Eternals have been pulled into space by the Celestial to basically stand trial for what they did. So it's like
for trying to kill Baby Celestial,
but they did kill him.
Oh, okay, they did
for killing Baby Celestial.
All right.
So, like, he pulls 3 of them out to space. I don't know why he didn't pull Kingo out. I guess, well, no, Kingo did. Did he?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, they cut to him. They cut to his face.
Okay. So he pulls them off Earth and, says, you kids. so they're in space. Then you got Druig and the speedster. I forget her name. And Athena. Athena went with them, right? Yeah. So you've got them in space, and then they've got Star Fox and Pip with them. And then you got the whole thing with Dane Whitman and Blade, and I don't know. It
was very disjointed.
It was. You went from boring to questionable, boring and questionable plot devices to things that you set up in that plot that didn't pay off. And then everything was left just as a mess when it was all said and done. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was not great.
I didn't like the inclusion of Black Knight. I like Black Knight. I've always liked the character. This guy did a fine job as Black Knight, but
why couldn't we see him in the costume?
Well, not that. It's just the fact that he had no really plot device in this movie. There was really you could have taken him out and it'd been the same thing. I mean, there was nothing he did. So, it'd been more interesting if you would have saw him pick up that sword like halfway in the movie and do something with it, instead of at the end, which was
it would have been cool.
I mean, why is he getting that sword? What the fuck's he gonna do? His girlfriend got ripped and sent to fucking to a outer space, and he goes and picks up the sword like he's going to go attack the.
Well, here, think about this. Like one of Black Knight's costumes in the '90s was and everybody had a leather jacket in the leather jacket in the '90s.
You're damn right.
But that would be kind of a cool callback. Is him with the helmet and the sword and just having a leather jacket, just having normal clothes or quasi normal clothes with the helmet and the sword. It'd be kind of a callback. You could almost do that '90s costume with him and have him do something. Just rescue people, whatever. So,
yeah, that would have been better than what they did. I mean, it was that scene with him getting that sword should have been somewhere in the movie, not at the very end to go attack a celestial.
Guys, the movie's called Eternals. It's not called Black Knight. It's just
if you're going to introduce a character, you have them do something. I mean, don't.
I'm much more interested in Black Knight than any of the Eternals.
I am too, but then why if they're going to introduce Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man, why didn't they do anything with him for the rest of the movie?
Ooh.
It's a post-credit scene.
Alex,
that's all it is. It's just setting shit up.
What about Nick Fury up on the sword satellite when that Celestial shows up? Just cut in. What the fuck? What the fuck? One more? What's this mother?
That's one tall motherfucker.
That would have been great.
All right, well, let's wrap this up, guys. This is ridiculous. This sounds like...
Let's wrap this shit up.
You know what? My curiosity is piqued. Only,
Now,
but
don't you wish you would have saw it with me?
no, I used my life for better purposes during that 2.5 hours, probably. But, Alex, I think we heard from you. Did we hear what ratings do we give these guys here? Do we know? Did we already do that?
I didn't give it a rating. I give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay, 3 out of 5. Brian?
1.
1.
All
right.
I have no intention of ever watching this movie again under any circumstances.
I'll probably see it again in theaters.
Good God.
Podman Ron.
I kind of like it.
What say you?
I'd see it again. I'd give it a 4.
Oh my!
What the fuck? You were shitting on it as much as Brian did.
Oh my God.
Well,
Not as
if
good
I'm
as
going
Shang-Chi.
by ratings, if
And
I'm
you liked
going
it better
by
than Shang-Chi.
my ratings,
You gave Shang-Chi a 5.
I thought I was the one who liked the movie the most. What the shit?
I'm saying I would watch it again. I mean,
Yes,
if I
Podman
but if
Ron
I'm
is
not
such a man of
But if I
mystery.
only watch it, if I'm one and done, that's a 3. If I'm one and done,
What's
but
a
I
2
recommend
then?
you to go.
If
A
you're
2
one and
is-
done, what's a 2?
A 2 is to say, it's up to you. I wouldn't see it, but it's up to you if you want to.
And what's a 1?
A 1 is I would tell you not to go see it, and I wouldn't see it. See how that works?
But I did see it. It's very confusing, Brian.
So
Keep up
confusing.
with it.
So
Keep up
1,
with it.
2, and 3 are all the same thing.
Yes.
I
No,
saw it,
they're
but
not.
I would
They're
let
totally
you can
different.
decide whether you see it.
Right. And no help whatsoever from me.
1, he would wrestle the keys out of your hand.
Gotcha. But 2
2,
and 3,
2, he may block the door, but not completely.
Right.
3, you're free to go.
Yeah. Doors open. There it is,
Doors
asshole.
open.
Yeah. You're on.
4, hey, I'll
I'm
open
going
the door
with
for
you.
you. I'll open the door for you.
Right.
And 5, I'll go see it again.
I'll go with you. Yeah.
You got room?
I'm driving.
Jeez.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee. All right. Well, Podman Ron,
driving.
that makes no sense whatsoever. But you did say that you liked it better than Shang-Chi, and you gave Shang-Chi a 5. So I trust in your own
No,
beautiful
I didn't say I
mind.
liked it better than Shang-Chi. I said I liked it better than Black Widow.
Black Widow. You're right. I apologize.
There you go.
Yeah, I honor your beautiful mind thing that you have going on there.
And I gave Black Widow a 3 out of 3.
All right.
Out of 3.
I mean, a
No,
3 out of 5.
don't. All right. So what's coming up next? We got Hawkeye coming up.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters versus Ghost Riders coming up. When is that coming up?
You're
Thanksgiving?
damn right. Next week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Probability I will see that.
No, yeah, something like that. The
Sexy
19th.
Paul Rudd. Congratulations to our good friend Paul Rudd for being sexiest man alive.
Oh yeah, Paul Rudd, man, way to go, Paul. I thought it was Chris Evans. Someone said it was
No,
Chris
that was
Evans.
last year. This year, they just announced it's Paul Rudd.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, keep up with the
At
news.
the young age of 55, he is one sexiest man alive.
Wow. See, there's still hope for you, Podman Ron.
Oh, god damn it.
All right, so we got Ghostbusters, we got Hawkeye coming up, we've got Matrix coming up in a handful of
You know what
weeks.
I'm really excited for?
What?
Is House of Gucci. Have you seen that trailer?
I have not, but I love me some Adam Driver.
That's
God,
a
you-
train wreck.
No. Alex, have you seen the trailer for House of Gucci?
I have. It looks really good.
There you go.
Wow, I hope we just get a movie that you two can agree on. That's all.
Apparently,
I'm looking for.
apparently, critics have said it's pretty meh. Those who have seen it at festivals.
Oh, that stinks.
It's a little style over substance, but I'll still see it. I love me after watching this movie. Apparently, I do love me some good style over substance.
That's all you. That's all you care about. That's all you need.
That's
There.
all I care about.
All right. Well, maybe next time we can talk about other stuff that we've been watching. I've been watching some good foreign TV shows. I'd love to talk about.
Them, the harder they fall on.
Oh, I tried. I made it like 10 minutes. Ugh. I've been watching Foundation. Isaac Asimov.
That's what I was watching right before this. I fall asleep in every episode because it's during my nap time from 7 to 8 o'clock. I take a nap. But my wife loves it, so we've been watching that. Another very slow, quiet thing, just like Dune. So I'm like, oh my God. But it's cool. I like Ronan the Accuser in it.
Yeah. I like that whole dynamic about the dawn, dusk, and dawn, day, and dusk.
Yeah,
so,
the regeneration is good.
But yeah, we can talk about Foundation. Yeah. And I started because of Many Saints in New York. I've started going back through Sopranos.
Oh wow! All right, and you know what? We haven't talked about the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
We have not talked about Curb.
We'll talk about that.
Not as
there's a big problem. It's like I can't understand why the hell they didn't do this. Like, but we can talk about it.
All right. Okay. Well, lots to catch up on next time, so we'll have to record more often, just like Podman Ron wants to do. But until next time,
save it for the podcast.